Zionists have chosen the great American satirist Mark Twain as their chief witness for the false claim that Palestine was a land without a people for a people without a land. Twain was not a demographer, economist, or historian. He was a humorist on assignment, a tourist who spent about 12 days in Palestine in 1867, producing a witty travelogue titled The Innocents Abroad, or The New Pilgrim's Progress. Written for an American readership, it was never intended as an ethnographic report. Its real purpose was to poke fun at the pious travelers and old world pretensions, and to let his readers know nothing in the old world could hold a candle to the good old USA. In Italy, he mocked the reverence of tourists before what he called the mournful wreck that is Da Vinci's Last Supper. Of Greece, he wrote, "Greece is a bleak, unsmiling desert without agriculture, manufactures, or commerce." And in the Holy Land, he quipped, "The celebrated Sea of Galilee is no more to be compared to Tahoe than a meridian of longitude is to a rainbow." As he approached Mount Tabor, Twain commented, "We never saw a human being on the whole route. Tabor stands solitary and alone." But once he reached the peak and looked down at the Jezreel Valley, he was struck by its fertility and beauty. The broad, level plain of Esdraelon, checkered with fields like a chessboard, dotted about its borders with white, compact villages. When it is robed in the fresh verdure of spring, it must form a charming picture. And it wasn't just the Jezreel Valley. He found Nablus, under high cultivation, and the soil is exceedingly black and fertile. It is well watered, and its affluent vegetation gains effect by contrast with the barren hills that tower on either side. In Banias, he described a great grove of olive trees near a torrent of sparkling water, whose banks are arrayed in fig trees, pomegranates, and oleanders in full leaf, calling it a sort of paradise. During his short stay, Mark Twain described Palestine in some places as empty and barren, and in others as fertile and verdant. Zionists just leave out the quotes that are inconvenient. Other 19th century travelers who stayed longer and lacked Twain's comic agenda portrayed a thriving, living land. Bayard Taylor called that same Jezreel Plain one of the richest districts in the world. The Christian Zionist Lawrence Oliphant described it as a huge green lake of waving wheat, broken only by village-crowned mounds that rose from it like islands. Altogether, one of the most striking pictures of luxuriant fertility it is possible to conceive. In Edward Robinson's account of Al-Jib, just northwest of Jerusalem, he described it as cultivated and full of grain, vineyards, and orchards of olive and fig trees. It was decidedly the finest part of Palestine that I had yet seen. Victor Guérin, the French archaeologist who conducted 8 expeditions to Palestine between 1852 and 1888, cataloged nearly 700 inhabited villages. We also have the data, the Ottoman Nufus, the population registers. Historians such as Bashara Dumani and Justin McCarthy have used these records to map hundreds of villages and document a history of continuous cultivation throughout the 18th and 19th centuries. In fact, when Twain visited, Palestine's population density was roughly 3 times that of the United States, 33 people per square mile versus America's 11. Meanwhile, Palestine's agricultural exports were booming. Between 1845 and 1870, exports of the famous Jaffa orange grew from 200,000 to an incredible 38 million. Olive oil exports from Jaffa surged more than 2,000% in just a few decades. This was not a desolate ruin. It was an agricultural powerhouse with a trade surplus. So why the disconnect? Here lies the great contradiction. In America, Twain famously humanized the poor. Huckleberry Finn, his greatest creation, was an uneducated, shoeless, homeless vagrant. Yet Twain imbued Huck with a moral compass superior to the civilized churchgoers around him. He treated the American poor as salt of the earth, figures possessing folk wisdom and dignity. But in The Innocents Abroad, there was no such empathy. Where Huck Finn sees nobility in destitution, Innocents Abroad sees degeneracy. In Naples, he wrote that the Lazzaroni were filthy, idle, and vicious beyond description. He dismissed the Greeks as a race of beggars and thieves. And of the Egyptians, he concluded, "The people are diseased, ignorant, and depraved beyond all hope of redemption." In Tiberius, he described the townspeople as particularly uncomely Jews, Arabs, and Negroes, and then launched into a shocking anti-Semitic screed describing the Jews of Tiberius. The long-nosed, lanky, dyspeptic-looking body snatchers with the indescribable hats on and a long curl dangling down in front of each ear are the old, familiar, self-righteous Pharisees we read of in the Scriptures. He had empathy for the American underdog, but viewed Southern Europeans, Jews, and the Oriental poor through the racist and jingoist eyes of his readers back home. Readers who needed to believe their civilization was superior, their expansion justified, and their displacement of others righteous. It's no wonder the book is so appealing to Zionists. They were not looking for scholarship or truth. They were seeking affirmation of their racist colonialist worldview. The land was not empty or barren. It was already lived in, cultivated, and sustained by a people whose roots reach back through a long succession of empires, all the way to the ancient Canaanites. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons if you would like to see more content like this.